So we have spent 4 episodes talking about why people should live a different life. And on this episode, we're going to talk about how you actually start. Where and how did you make that first step?
Well, I think we talked about this at the beginning about getting the inspiration, but practically I'm a bit of a list maker. And I think the first thing was to contact the sailing school. Then I looked into a career development loan and I drafted my resignation letter. And then I tried to put my apartment on the market. I treated it as a very kind of spreadsheet type exercise in basically escaping. I would have been crap at prisoner of war camps because they would have found my post-it notes all over the wall. You were different.
Yeah, sure. I'm a different person. And I didn't do any spreadsheets. I don't even think I can do them now. I had lots of different jobs. And so first of all is to try and hand those jobs over to people because they're jobs that I created. So I didn't want those to die off because I was a drama movement therapist. So I had like jobs in prisons and hospitals. And so I found therapists to take over those jobs.
I guess that's a good point to make, isn't it? Because I had a career job and you had a freelance job.
Yeah, lots of freelance jobs. I did lots of different things. So I wanted to find people to carry those projects on. So that was the first thing. And then I think I organised to rent my house and I got on a one-way ticket to Ibiza. Then I got on a boat around the island in my comp crew. And then I decided I wanted to do the theory because I love the navigation side. So I was camping out in this tent and I was doing my theory and realised I was quite good at it. Surprised me. I never thought I was good at maths. And then I got another one-way ticket on a boat across to Majorca and found a boatyard and got a job in the boatyard. And then I went to the corner bar and try and find work. It sounds really dodgy, doesn't it?
So you walked the docks.
I walked the docks, tried to get work, and then someone said there was a boat going across the Atlantic. So I jumped on another flight, one-way flight, and jumped on this boat and went on a one-way trip across the Atlantic. So it's all one ways.
Before I'd even stepped on a boat, I was basically on a 0 to hero course to get my Yachtmaster. But it took you how many crossings of the Atlantic before you decided to get a qualification?
So I went across and then I got work out there and did the Caribbean season. And then I came back on a boat. And then after that, actually, I flew to Canada and I ended up getting a job in a sailing school there.
You were teaching sailing before you even got your first qualification?
Yeah, someone got me to try and take over their job of teaching. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I soon learnt from a few mistakes. And then I came back. I delivered a boat back from America. So I'd done 3 Atlantic crossings. And then I thought, I'm going to do my Yachtmaster. And then I got my other job, my job in the flotilla skipper, which is when I met you. I didn't know what I was doing then either.
I guess my approach was ready, aim, fire. And yours was fire, aim, ready.
Possibly. Do you think other people did that as well?
Well, I think the people we met around the world, everybody had a different approach. I think the thing to point out is everybody did have a different approach. There isn't a set way of getting into this lifestyle. People from all sorts of different backgrounds and all sorts of weird ways of getting into it. But I think the important thing to say is not where to start or how to start. It's just to start. Just put your back to the door and step out and start anywhere, really.
Yeah, I think any way works. You soon work out what it is that you know or don't know, and you learn from all of that problem solving. And there's so much you can do, I think, in a course. I remember doing the day skipper practical, and you get on a boat and they're like, right, now you take the helm. And you're there and the instructor's next to you and you're like, is this okay? Is this okay? And they're like, yeah, this is good. And then it's like, okay, that's 2 hours out. Right, back we go now then. And it's all very contained. And if anything goes wrong, they're going to step right in there because they have to. So you learn a structure, which is really good, but you don't really learn. I always thought a flotilla was the best way of learning. A 4-day course, they stick you on a boat, off you go. And yes, you've got the support of the flotilla crew, but you can go off on your own. And we always sort of wave goodbye in the morning and then they hopefully arrive at the right port at night. Not all of them did. But I thought that was the best learning curve, really, to be on your own boat. There's no one else telling you what to do or checking you're doing it right.
Yeah. I mean, one of the episodes we will do about how to learn to sail.
Okay, yeah.
But since we brought it up, we have slightly different ideas about training. It's strange, isn't it? Because I did set off with that very structured approach. And over the years, I've become less enamoured by that approach. And you've seemed to have gone the opposite direction. You started off with a very haphazard approach to it, and now you're very much involved in a structured approach to learning sailing with the RYA.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually quite like it because I jumped in there and then you kind of like, okay, now you've got to swim. And then you realise that there's so many ways to make that easier. So it's not just that, it's even my experience in the RLI. I loved the systems at which we trained. We had these processes and this way of learning and working as a team. And I really liked it because you knew exactly what was going on. You always did it the same way, and they always worked. I mean, obviously, it isn't like that sailing all the time. You can't just follow that procedure and always work.
That's what I find so unusual, because knowing you, as I do, you can't even follow a recipe. So how do you manage to apply that to sailing?
Well, it's not about I can't. It's because I just don't want to, really, because I get in there and you go, what have I got? And then you get on and cook it. And you've done it so many times that you don't need to half the time. I haven't got the time to sit down and follow a recipe, really, because in those days, you've got all that time. You're like, oh, we're going to make this new one. But it's just slap it together nowadays. Ever since I think having kids makes you do that. So It's not like I haven't really got time, I don't want to. But I do like processes. I find it really hard to follow processes. It's not my natural state. I think naturally I just want to jump in and just do it. That's my natural thing. But I've had to train myself to follow process and plan. And I do find it hard. It goes against my nature.
Having kids is a good analogy, really, because it doesn't matter how many books you read or how many prenatal classes you go to, when they hand you that baby and you step out the hospital door, you still have no clue what you're doing, and it is a kind of sink or swim.
I mean, I actually think that's in everything, really, in life. I mean, even now I'm teaching levels and stages for kids and adults, and you have the plan you're supposed to do, but everyone's different. One person's going to do this, one person's going to do that. They've got different personalities. So actually, you have to work around people all the time in every walk of life, because we're not robots. So all the different people that we met, though, and they all did it a different way. Were you surprised by anyone in particular?
The one thing that surprised me above everything else was how little prep the people did compared to us. Even when we left, I felt we weren't really ready, but we were kind of way, way further down the line than most other people. We'd become instructors, we'd been in a sailing school. And then there were some people that we met, like, was it Zing from Israel? They basically got sick of lockdown during COVID and decided to buy a boat and go. And there was quite a few people like that, actually. There was Best Life as well. He basically binge watched YouTube to learn how to sail. But I think the people who surprised me most was Naus, our Russian friends. We spent a lot of time with those guys. They were in Siberia. I mean, you couldn't get more landlocked than Siberia, and suddenly decided they wanted to leave on very little money. In fact, they bought their boat for about 7,000 euros, I think it was, a concrete boat. And they're still going to this day. I think they were the most inspirational family I've met, because they set off with nothing, no experience, no money, basically, and they made it work with 3 kids on board as well. Incredible.
Yeah, he was very resourceful, though. I mean, he was a mechanic, but he knew how to fix everything. And if he didn't have to fix it, he could make it. And that's what he did. He made half his boat, didn't he, from the stuff in the skip?
Yeah.
And I was amazed. I just remember his guardrail, and he made it out of old chairs, aluminium chairs. And I didn't know it at first because it actually looked so good. He'd welded together all these aluminium chairs, but it looked pretty cool. And it was just a whole load of chairs that had been thrown into the skip. And he made that rudder post out of an old spinnaker pole.
Yeah. Before we left, my job was making things out of scrap material and building materials. And I thought I was quite good at it until I met him, and he was like a guru. He could take a welding torch to anything in a skip and turn it into anything. It was incredible.
That is really inspirational. A lot of people we met, they didn't have any sailing skills, but I don't really think sailing skills are that. They're not the rocket science bit. It's actually being able to sort of multitask and not get fazed by that. Live with the unknown is the biggest thing, because you never know what's going to happen. So people buy these expensive boats, they have lots of money, and even Zing, they didn't maybe know how to sail very much, but they had lots of nice things, and they made a good pot of stew, didn't they? And so they made friends straight away. You know, you help each other out. Do you want the expert, or do you want someone who's got good personality and who's going to get through it with you?
Whatever characteristics you've got to make that work. So if you can cook a good pot of stew, then you invite people around in your network and you get lots of information from them. If you're good with a welding torch, you can make friends and network that way. Everybody brought something to the game, brought something to the community and the network. And that coming together, that exchange of information and that exchange of knowledge was basically what kept everybody going.
That's what I loved. It doesn't matter who you met, you work out who's better at what things, and then you all support each other in that. There's different things that you support each other in. So you don't have to be expert in everything. You just have to be around people that can help you out, or you can help each other out. Community, isn't it?
So out of everybody we met, who do you think you found most inspirational and surprising?
You meet some really interesting people. So I didn't find anyone surprising because everyone's quite unique, really. I would agree that Nous were maybe the most inspirational because they had nothing and they made it work. And that was incredible, really.
Their YouTube channel is still going, half in Russian and half in English. And he's still fixing boats up.
They found a way of living that's not in Siberia, and that's amazing, really.
Yeah, they're still grateful to this day to be away from Putin's Russia, I think.
So do you think it really matters how you start? Do you think it's important to get sailing skills? Do you think it's important to do other skills?
Like you mentioned before, there are so many other skills. Sailing is just one small part of the whole thing. I know people's instinct is to go out and learn to sail or improve sailing skills, but I wouldn't say that that's the most important skill to have. Obviously, it's important.
I think you just need 4 days and you can do it.
Yeah. Well, the ICC, the International Certificate of Competency, can be done in a weekend in most countries, and then you license to basically take out up to 24-metre boat.
I would stay away from marinas if you haven't had much experience.
That's the other thing as well. You will make mistakes, and to make those mistakes in the least expensive way possible, which is not in marinas. It's on a flotilla, away from other boats, on somebody else's boat preferably, and on a charter boat if you can.
There's so many aspects to it though, isn't there? There's the manoeuvring, there's the sailing, how to get the sails up and down, that's the basic stuff. Getting in and out of marinas, that gets a little bit more touchy, doesn't it? And then there's weather forecasting. It's what equipment you have too. Nowadays it's so easy because you can get Starlink and get an app anyway. Can you just look at the clouds and work it out? And I think even that you get better and better from working that out. And then you get to places like Fiji to New Zealand trip, and suddenly I felt like a novice all over again. It's like, how do I do the forecasting for this one? Because it's completely different north to south.
I think that we had a first taste of that when we went to the Canaries, didn't we?
We sat there, didn't we? 3 weeks ago, we can't
3 weeks, yeah. 3 weeks we waited because we were waiting for a weather window, and we weren't even quite sure how to interpret what was a weather window because we had two completely separate systems interacting with each other and then whizzing off in different directions.
Also that swell, you learn something and then you learn it again, and it's always different everywhere you go. I remember some of the times we'd be going around and I'd be thinking, I could easily do this again, because every place we go to is the new place. For 8 years, we went to a new place every single time. So wherever we went was generally always a new place. You have to be able to live with never knowing what the anchorage is going to be like and never know anything. Or obviously you can ask people.
I guess the other thing is clearing in. A procedure that should be the same all around the world, it was completely different.
That's right. Well, I remember you say to me, how do you actually do it? And I'd say, well, there isn't really a way to do it. You have to be able to make it up as you go along and work it out. No Foreign Land was a great app because people started putting in markers on the map saying, step 1, go here first. Step 2, go here first. And that was brilliant.
But it wasn't just that, was it? It was like, if you're going there, make sure you get the lady with the funny, twitchy eye and not the guy with the beard, because they would check you in a completely different way. I tried to write a guide to clearing in. And
I was just thought, what is he doing?
I spent weeks trying to do that, and it was just impossible. It's not possible to write a guide to clearing in.
I told you that.
It's like some Kafkaesque exercise in futility.
We just talked about, does it matter whether you learn to sail or not? I mean, is there things that you think that would matter? So it doesn't matter how you check into countries, it doesn't matter if you can sail or not. Maintenance. I think you need to be a little bit comfortable with a spanner, how an engine works, or you just have a lot of money and you can sail well because you can sail yourself into a dock, can't you?
It's true. I'm always banging on about the maintenance thing. I do actually think maintenance skills are more important than the sailing skills in some respect. But even having money, people just think, well, I've got money, I'll just pay a mechanic to do it. But if you're stuck in somewhere like Fakarava and there are no mechanics on the island and there's no resources there, and you've still got a couple 100 miles to sail across the Pacific or Tahiti, what are you going to do with money? Yeah,
exactly. The skills that are important are spontaneity, being able to deal with the unknown, and making friends. Because there's going to be someone in that anchorage who's an engineer.
So we call it interpersonal skills.
Interpersonal skills.
Interpersonal skills and maintenance.
Yeah, I think that's more important than being a mechanic.
Well, we did meet people along the way who had very, very few skills, but they had very good interpersonal skills, and they always managed to get somebody to help them out and fix things on the boat. Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've got to be a bit practical and be able to do it the best you can.
You have to diagnose what's wrong and then ask the right questions.
So what do you think, being ready enough, what do you think that actually means then? What is to be ready enough to go?
I think that's a very subjective answer. I don't think anybody feels ready. I mean, did you feel ready?
Yeah.
Did you?
but for me, ready is just go. whether you're ready or not.
Yeah, funny you should say that, because I'd been on the boat for several months before you'd even turned up, and I was getting that boat ready. And then you turned up, and it was such a euphoric feeling, because we'd been aiming for this day for years and years and years. And then suddenly you were on the boat, and it was chaos, but it just felt right to be there.
There's a difference between being ready in yourself and the boat ready.
That's true.
There's two different things. I felt ready at that point because the kids were a certain age. I wanted them all to get at the same school for 1 year at least, but I'd cleared everything out of the house and was ready to go. But I think you have to kind of disconnect yourself in some ways, because the boat will never be ready. The boat is never, ever, ever, ever ready, because you'll always find something else to do to it.
Oh, yeah. We met people with boats in docks that have been there for years getting their boats ready. And like I said, there's always something else to do. There's always software update to do, or some new equipment to put in, or a leak to sort out. If you're waiting for the perfect time to go, it'll never happen. It's a bit like waiting for all the lights to turn green when you're driving through a city before you set off. It's never going to happen. You just got to go. The sea will give you lessons as you go along.
And you make the best of what you've got. Just go with what you've got.
Yeah, I think that's a good philosophy for life, really.
Definitely.
What would you say to somebody who said they're waiting to be ready before they go? How would you guide them?
It depends who they are. Like if they were a family, I would just say go and find other places where the family's living on boats, and then make your plan.
So you do a bit of a therapy session with them first and find out what their blockages are. If somebody's making lots of excuses not to go, then that's more of a psychological thing than a practical barrier.
For those people, I would just say, if you really want to do this thing, you just need to drop those lines and off you go, unless there's anything really big stopping you, and then work it out later. I would say keep it simple and don't be complicated. And if you're not sure, find other people that are like-minded, go and find other sailors and go and chat to them, and you'll soon work it all out.
Mingle with the type of people that you want to become.
I see some people, before they've even left, they're already talking about what yogurt maker to get, what kind of bread maker to get, and how many of this and that do they need. It's just too organised for me. Keep it simple and make sure you've got swimming costumes and a decent iPad tablet. That's one thing I was obsessed with, weather forecasting.
One of the game changers, I think, in the last couple of decades, really, has been Starlink, because then people have got an interface that they're familiar with, because before that we had to learn lots of different software,
SSB
and AIS, the radar, and now you can get that all on one tab and have real-time animated weather forecasts, real-time communication. It's fantastic.
Things tend to go wrong when you've got a bad forecast. That's when things start going wrong at the beginning, and it seems a bit frenetic. So I think get good forecasts, get obsessive with getting your anchor down properly, have a good anchor app.
But I was more talking about the kind of interface, because one of the many challenges, I think, when you do start sailing, apart from the language of sailing, is the different interfaces that you've got to learn. You've got to learn the menu for your inverter, and the menu for your radar, and the menu for your chart plotter, and so on and so on. But now you can get one tablet with one operating system like an Android and do it all on that. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's so good now. And that's something that people are familiar with, even who are not connected with boats. I mean, that might be a good place to start, is get yourself an online chart plotter, an Android-based one, and just play about with it. And that will give you a lot of information. I remember when we first started, it was all paper charts, pilotage books.
Yeah, we did still use the books, didn't we?
We did, yeah. Like the Rod Heikel books, do you remember?
Yeah, we used it a lot,
They were
actually.
great.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? No one uses that anymore because it's all online.
I think that's a good thing, personally.
Oh, it is a good thing.
It's a shame the RYA doesn't bring itself up to date.
No, I think they are. You don't have to have a dig at them. They actually have, I think.
Are they still teaching secondary port calculations?
Possibly.
They are, because I checked before I did this interview. I mean, who in God's name
But don't you think that's really
secondary
lovely
port
to do that?
calculation?
I think it's nice to still be able to use a chart and a compass and plot your course. I think it's something really romantic about sailing. And if it all broke, then what would you do?
Well, it's like saying you should still learn to ride a horse, because if your car breaks down, you're going to need it.
Yeah. Why not?
I think it's ridiculous that people are still teaching secondary port calculations in this day and age. Don't you?
No, I think electrics can all break down. So why not?
And you can drop a sextant overboard as well. And your secondary port calculations can be...
I think if people want to learn it because they're interested in it, why not?
That's nostalgia. It's not cruising.
Well, yeah.
In my opinion. Anyway, should we save that till the section on learning to sail, and then we can have a right good bit of banter on that one?
Yeah. So basically we're saying you're never going to be ready, really, but just get a few basics sorted out. Have a basic list of 5 things that you need to go.
I think putting a date in the calendar. Otherwise, you could just go on year after year thinking someday. It gives you a date in the calendar to work towards.
It is a good idea, yeah. I mean, we wanted to do it before they all left that same school. We didn't want Rowan to have to go to a secondary school and then leave. So it had to be before she moved into the secondary school. And that was our rough limit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of a life event. We wanted to go before that certain life event. And I think it was good. I think if we'd left it any later,
more tricky.
As it happened, Rowan did leave when she was 16 anyway.
Oh, came back, yeah.
She had that teenage urge to just get away from the parents and live her own life. So you were ready to leave, both psychologically and skill-wise.
I didn't really know what I didn't know, to be quite honest.
I think that's an important point, isn't it? Sometimes it's best to leave with ignorance.
Yeah,
well, overthink it.
Yeah, if you thought about all the things you should know, it'd be quite stressful. That's why you probably wouldn't leave. But if you don't think about it too much, I just thought everything would be all right, it'd be positive, and then I freaked out later. But that's how you learn from those mistakes. Things don't go to plan always, and you get your ups and your downs, and every time there's something not going well, then you have another plan or another way of doing it, and that's how you learn in your life, don't you?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you've actually tried it, and then you go, oh, I need to learn that.
Yeah.
There's no way of looking ahead and knowing what you don't know.
And I think that makes it more exciting. If you think about all the things you don't know, it's not much fun. So just go with it, and then when you discover something you don't know, then learn it. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. It's like backfilling your skills rather than trying to anticipate what's going to happen.
And you can learn masses on YouTube now, to be quite honest.
Oh, YouTube's fantastic. Yeah. In fact, Best Life, they learn everything off YouTube.
Yeah. And he was very knowledgeable.
He'd spent, was it a year or two? Just binge watching YouTube, every single sailing channel, every maintenance channel. They hired a skipper for a week, was it, to learn to sail, and then they were off. In fact, they've nearly completed their circumnavigation, I think. In fact, they might have done it already.
It's possible.
There is no perfect place to start. There is no perfect time to start. The point is, it's not where to start or when to start or how to start. It's just start.
Yes. Good note to finish on.
It is, isn't it? We've spent now 5 episodes about inspiration. You get yourself all worked up and excited, and then you start thinking, but what about this and what about that? So I think we'll get a flamethrower onto all of those excuses, those doubts. We'll go through those one by one and pick them off.
Okay.
Great.
Bye.
So see you next week.